Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Magic Exists podcast with Dani Margot. This podcast is for anyone on their personal development or spiritual awakening journey who is transitioning from the third dimensional living to fifth dimensional being. I believe magic exists everywhere, and it's about shifting your perspective to see it all around you. So, we have a very special guest today. Her name is Betty Andrews. Welcome.
Thanks for having me with you in the fifth dimension.
Beautiful. So, Betty Andrews is a manifestation coach and astrologer and founder of the CosmicCo. And the first question I like to ask all my guests is, what is your strongest clair, and how does that manifest in your life and in your work?
Gosh, I don't just have one that's strongest. They're all bloody mad, firing signals at all times. And I didn't even know there was multiple clairs until a few years ago. But I honestly, all of them. I feel all of them all of the time. I would say it makes the world, the 3D world, very overwhelming. I am very affected by people's energies, and I don't care who you are and how spiritually advanced you are. Motherfuckers with their energy in the street, no matter how protected you are, like you feel that shit. So it's like I'll be walking down a street and I'll feel and see and sometimes hear people's thoughts, and I have to cross the street. So that's how it can affect it on a daily basis. On a grander basis, now I know more about it and also teach people about it. I understand when I have to leave somewhere. I understand how to protect myself energetically and how to transmute and alchemize based on that. But I also understand that vampirically, there's people out there that will like siphon these little hands, siphon your energy. And that was something I didn't understand for the longest time. So now I have the ability to deal with that. It does make like life easier, but I like teaching other people, specifically sensitive people, about how to deal with that, especially when you've got all of the clairs firing like a multi-dimensional party at all times.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I totally resonate at times where you're like, you could be walking down the street and people's energies is just way too much. And you're like, I need to get freaking out of here. And in the beginning, I didn't know that either. And I would just go thinking that was my own energy or thinking I was just having a bad day without any knowing. And so that's so beautiful. People are able to learn from you, and all the things you have learned to be able to really protect your energy and live as a multidimensional being in this third dimensional reality. And I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing. Tell us a little bit about growing up being super sensitive, having all your clairs, and how you've been able to really transform that into the Cosmic Co.
I also just think, based on what you say, that I should start a band called Betty and the Claires, you know, and each person could represent a different Claire.
Yes.
I was, like you said, a very sensitive child growing up. I saw spirits and demons and aliens very, very young. My biggest fear in the world was aliens, like specifically what looked like, now I know, grays. And I didn't understand at the time that all of that was real and no one else was seeing it around me and no one else seemed to believe me. And I had, as we've talked about, I had beings that would like touch my legs up and down when I was in bed. So probably even until 2 years ago, slept in a duvet blanket cocoon so nothing could touch me. But obviously the motherfuckers can get through the duvet. But in my little brain, I was like, I'm protecting myself. And I would wake up at any sound because I grew up in England, and my father had restored like this huge old creepy building that I'll send you a picture of. Like, it was gorgeous, but it was like 500, 600 years old, right? So it was full of everything, and it had multiple portals and dimensions. And we lived there till I was about 9. And I remember, like, when I'd be 4 or 5, like things would follow me down the hallway to when I was going to the bathroom. And girl, if I showed you this hallway, you'd be like, oh. And I had to get my dad to come with me. And I think he thought that that was because, it was just a scared 4 or 5-year-old. And I was like, no, bitch, there's like demons in the cupboard. It's like, what do you want? Anyway, so that really taught me that we are not alone. And as a way of dealing with that, and I don't really talk about this often, but it was interesting as a kid. I now know that what I did to protect myself from that was lucid dreaming. So I would force myself into dreams and other realities so I didn't have to deal with the darkness, because it was so terrifying. Like, you wake up and see lizard eyes staring at you, or like pointed like dragon's ears, and they weren't like I love dragons, but they weren't dragon, they were dragon-esque. And through the lucid dreaming, I was this girl who was blonde because my natural hair is like nearly black, right? So I think part of the reason that I'm blonde now is because this girl was blonde and like strong and all the things that I wanted to be as a kid, but I was like small and dark and pale, and I felt like I couldn't fight these things. And she was like a dragon tamer. So I think it must have been inspired by the dragon ears I was seeing. And if anybody's ever watched the movies Aragon, it was almost like that. And they were like these books that turned into like this big Hollywood franchise. I nearly said Hollywood. And so yeah, so for years, like these lucid dreams went on for about 8 years. Like, and the girl grew as the dreams grew. So now I know that that was like another reality, another version of me. And I was going to write a whole series of fantasy books about them when I was 18 or 19. And then Aragon came out with nearly an identical story. And I was like, it just shows the consciousness of ideas and how if you don't do it, they'll pick you to be a vessel or they'll pick someone else. So all of this was going on at night. And so like that's when I've seen all of those things. And then family wise, it was very interesting. I was the product of an affair through my parents. So they'd already had one marriage. And then I think my mum was my dad's secretary, like it's classic. And I was the product of that. But they were like my age now, so like 40. And they had all of these like pretty much adult children. And I was born into a family that really didn't want me. And I think as a baby, I knew that because I didn't want to come out and I had to be induced. It was like 2 or 3 weeks overdue. And I was like, bitch, no, I'm staying in this cosmic portal. Don't make me come out. And I wasn't treated very well by a lot of my adult brothers and sisters. And hopefully they never watch or hear this. And if they do, well, you shouldn't have done it. And I grew up with, I was criticized on every level, like for my personality, for how I looked, bullied relentlessly. And that really took a toll, as you can imagine. And my whole of my 30s was about the undoing of them and the redoing and reclamation of self, because I didn't really know what had happened to me for the longest time. And then when we'd moved from the house of darkness to this rental house, because my dad lost his, I think, was he made redundant? He was made redundant. So we moved to this new house. And unfortunately, something happened that shaped the whole course of my life, which was our next door neighbor basically like essayed me, very much like multiple rapes, multiple sexual abuse, and no one believed me for years until my brother remembered that it happened in front of him. And my parents called me a liar, and nothing was done about it. So
Oh my
why?
goodness.
Yeah, and not to trauma dump, but this really, and it happens to so many girls, so many women, so many boys. And I feel like we all need to talk about it more. And you know, when I think about that, like that weirdly didn't traumatize me, but what did traumatize me was my parents' reaction to it. Like I wasn't important enough to protect or be believed. So when it all came out the first time, wasn't believed. And then my brother, like I said, remembered and he stepped in and told my parents. And it was only then that they considered it real because a man had said it, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
Misogyny of what we grow up with, because my parents are older parents and they grow up in like very misogynistic views of women. And then I come out in all of my feminism and creativity and hugeness and weirdness, and they don't know what the fuck to do with me. And I don't know what the fuck to do with them. And it was just enhanced through all of these situations where the people that should have protected you and believe you, like, I just think they didn't know what to do with me. They didn't, I would say that they love me, but they certainly don't like me. And that's okay now. But that has been the biggest shaping of me and the biggest thing for me to overcome. And all of these extra sensory abilities that I have, I knew that I wanted to help other people overcome similar things. And in particular, I was very interested in helping like women, the gays and the theys. And I'm always considering things from an intersectional point of view as much as a white woman can, which is not that great. And you have to listen and learn and, you know, advocate in the ways you can, and you're going to fuck up. But I'd always had companies from when I was 24 that was all about empowering other people because I felt so disempowered. But I think once I went to therapy at 32, I started to understand on a deeper level what had happened to me with my family. And she told me like I had chronic PTSD, CPTSD, and all of this. And it was the first time that it had been named. And in the naming of it was the understanding of it. And so once you understand something, then what do you do about it? And then I started to really deep dive on what trauma was, how it is held in the body, how it affects the brain. And effectively, like trauma can be looked at like brain injury. And I didn't know that. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be alive. I haven't wanted to be alive all of my 20s, all of my 30s. This world is fucked. Get me off. And all of this to say, because it's a very big story, your whole life. How do you explain all of this? But when I started going down the, okay, well, I'm going to try everything in this grand experiment to keep myself alive. And I understood if trauma is held in the body, how do we get it out? How do we get it out? If I thought it was up here, it's not up here, it's everywhere, right? And that's when I started going to like kinesiology and Reiki. So a lot of energy healing. And I know you're a Reiki teacher, so she's doing God's work. And I had been to a few Reiki people before and I hadn't clicked with them. And then I met my now best friend. She became my best friend who completely changed my life. And my other best friend who's my kinesiologist. So you should always become besties with your healers.
I love it.
Highly recommend it. And they started to extract and identify what it was. And I just felt so different. And I really hadn't felt much for such a long time. And then I remember in kinesiology, like I felt my spiritual, I always say this wrong. It's not the perineum because I think that that's your asshole, but I think whatever is around your heart, different. That is, it literally cracked open. I was like, whoa. And then I felt all of the things and have felt all of the things since. And that's been beyond just the extrasensory. It was as people feel because I was numb for so long. So anyway, so the more I did, the more I learned. I was like, holy fucking shit, people need to know about this. Like, and like COVID came out with lots and lots of realizations about myself, confronted my parents about what happened, being like, what the fuck during the Me Too movement, got them to apologize, not got them, but so there's a lot of forgiveness that happened there.
So
And
beautiful.
thank you. And it was in all of that I was like, not only are people lost and wanting to find healing, like I want to be able to do that. And I'd learned about manifestation, and I knew that you couldn't really create your own reality in an easy way. You're always manifesting, but it's a lot of shadow work. And because I was doing the shadow work, I started to take the ways that I empowered women in business as a business coach, started implementing more of manifesting and healing. And yeah, and then the rest is history. And it started as an app in a community called Woo Woo. We shut that down for various reasons, rebranded as the CosmicCo, and it kind of blew up. And that is a very, very long-winded story of the 40 years of my life.
I love it. Thank you so much, Betty, for just really opening up and being vulnerable about your experience because that's my goal of this podcast, right? To share experiences with other people who might be feeling similar things and not have a space in which they find other people who might have had similar experiences. And so that's the purpose of all of it, and to really be able to uncover the layers and feel connected to other people who might have shared experiences. And I'm just celebrating you so much for all the work you have done because it's been a long journey and it has really you like the way you speak about it is so you are really come to a place where you've found and accepted like who you are and your place in this world and wanting really wanting to help other people with the similar experiences from this place of like unconditional love and really support, and it really shows through all your work and the CosmicCo, which is such a radiant, beautiful energy of itself. Um, but I know you just left, like a lot of us entrepreneurs, right? We're like doing our full-time jobs and then doing our side things, And I know you recently left your job to do CosmicCo full-time. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit about manifestation because that's not something that I've had on my podcast yet. And I know that's like a big topic that people haven't really, I feel like there's not one way, right? Because everyone's different, everyone's shadows are different, everyone's traumas are different. So the way in which people are processing and moving through the world in order to attract their desires is a little bit different. And so I want to hear a little bit about your take on it and how you move your clients and help support them in that way.
I bloody love manifestation. It was the only thing that combined everything I was interested in. Because you know, like when you're like, you've got ADHD or whatever, we're branding very advanced brain people of civilization. The next stage of the brain. When you've got that and there's like multiple talents, you're kind of shamed for it. Like now we talked about the multi-hyphenate and the multi-passionate, and you know, now it's been commercialized, it's cool. But my whole life, people are like, you just need to focus. And I was like, no, bitch, I do not want to focus. I want to do all of it, all of the time. And what I love about manifestation is there's the science of it, there's the magic of it, and everything in between. And what it is essentially, manifestation is understanding that reality is bendable, that the world that you operate in, the 3D, the third dimension, is the old world. It's the dead world, the shadow world. And it's like, it's based on your old thoughts, maybe that you've been conditioned your whole life to think. So if you've been like, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve love, because at some point you have learned that, someone's taught you that, and how someone teaches you that isn't always like, it's not something that's forced on you, but it's like, it leaves a mark in the brain. And it could be like when you were 7, and it like, that comes from the subconscious, which is, how do you even describe the brain? Everyone always says like subconscious is 95% of the brain. We don't fucking know that. They're making it up. Like they're so unadvanced in the technology of the brain. So I'm not going to say that. But the subconscious is the unknown. And it's like the subconscious keeps your heart beating, you breathe, it's all of that, but it's also, it runs you like a program. And if it's not brought from the shadow to the light, and sometimes you don't know that until you identify like, oh my God, I keep repeating the same toxic patterns in relationships. What does it say about me? And it's through questioning and journaling or working with a coach or a therapist, whatever. You're like, oh, my mom and dad had the most toxic relationship. That put belief in me that love isn't safe. So I'm doing everything I can to avoid love. And that's why I can't attract the partnership that I want. So you could be trying to manifest. And what you mean by manifest is like attract it to you. It's not a wish list. It's not like saying, well, you know, universe, I'd really love this and this. It's like you get to create whatever you want. You get to demand it. Like, so it's basically saying to yourself, okay, these are the things that I want, and I am going to follow my intuition, which is a lot of the time your higher self or God or the universe, whatever you believe, or maybe your friendly neighborhood demon, who is guiding you. Maybe demons get a bad rep, who is guiding you to where you need to go. So often you'll be put into situations with people, and we call them like universal lessons, and people roll their eyes. I call it wisdom. It gives you like, I think in Kabbalah, someone said, I don't understand Kabbalah at all, but I really liked this that I heard from someone I can't name. It said that when you are trying to attract something, you're a vessel, right? So you are a vessel that has a light emittance of maybe 60 watts, but you're trying to get to 1,000 watts of light, but there's no way your body could handle that. You'd burn up like a supernova, and it's not cute. They look great on camera, not cute when it's happening. So you need to incrementally get to the point where your vessel, your body in this limited third dimension can handle the reality of what you want. An example of this to make this more tangible is I thought that I was ready for love. I go back to relationships, or money, either or, both are heart matters. I thought I was ready for love. I'd been through like all of these horrible relationships, repeating all of the things. And then I took 3 years out, fell completely in love with myself. It turns out if you remove toxic men from your life through your own, like, and I had like things to play in that too, it's not just them, then I learned what it was that I kept repeating. I took time out. I learned to be in my own energy. And it was from falling in love with myself that I learned then a softness about the world and about myself, because I wasn't always on fight or flight. I managed to forgive a whole lot of people for things I'd never forgive. And then when I think I saw you nearly a year ago in LA on the way
Mm-hmm.
to Sydney, because my
Yeah.
intuition, and we'll go into this separately, my intuition told me that I needed to drop everything again. That bitch loves doing this, and move back to LA or Sydney. I wasn't sure at the time, and not to get too attached to anywhere, right? So I sold everything I owned again in 4 days. And I came back and I was going to a friend's wedding. And I don't know if I've told you this. And at that wedding were some of my besties. And I was like so excited to see them, because we were all in this tech co-working space together, like loved them. And I went there, and I hope I never break up with this guy because like this is going to be embarrassing in the future. But essentially, I was absolutely smacked over the head with feelings for one of my best male friends. And I was so shocked by that. And why it happened was because I'd followed my intuition. Like I was like I actually only wanted to date women. I was like, fuck man, I want a whole gay relationship. I need more female time. Still kind of feel like that, but what are you going to do? Anyway, so where this comes back to what I'm saying is I trust my intuition without a doubt. The way that I learned to trust, because everyone goes, how do you know? It's an experiment. You don't. You gather data on what's working or not. But every time I follow it, she tells me to move back to England from Australia. I do it. I find out my parents are really sick. I help get them through that. She tells me to move back to Australia after I spent $20,000 on furniture in my house. I was like, bitch, are you joking? I go back. I re-meet Ian because when I used to know him, I was like, girl, you're like my little brother. There's no way I'm dating you. You're so immature. And I was also a bit of a bitch. I was way too hard. And we come back and I see him in this whole new light, right? That shit's not a coincidence. There are no coincidences, as we know in spirituality.
Divine
And
timing.
and I was working with God very closely then. So I imagine God as what's her name? She's this fabulous actress, Lupita. Is that her name? She's this
I'm not
like
sure.
fabulous African American woman, and she's an actress and she's gorgeous. And that's how God shows up to me. And she changes outfits where we're going to the gym. God changes outfits. So she talks to me like my best friend. And that's how I work with God. And she guided me through the whole thing. So I was so shocked that I had feelings for this guy that I had to go to my sisters in Adelaide, leave Sydney, even though I just came back for like 2 weeks. And I was just rocking backwards and forwards, being like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck. And I manifested that, even if it was in a shocking way that I didn't understand how it worked. And it was through taking the intuitive nudges of going home to heal my heart with my family so that I could be prepared for this. And then I started getting, he doesn't know this yet. Oh my God, he doesn't gonna find out. So I had visions of us together and I was like, this is fucking shocking. And when that first happened, I was like, holy freaking shit. And then my spirit baby, and I'm 40, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if my womb's alive anymore. We're hoping it is. But my spirit baby is like, bitch, that's my dad. And I was like, no. So I don't think I've told him that yet. So it's gonna be a
It's gonna
shock.
be a fun one, a fun combo.
Might have to tell him at dinner tonight. Holy fuck. So anyway, so then she's sending me these visions and I'm like, well, I guess then I'm manifesting a family, like, because I thought I was just going to have this child-free life, but manifestation and choices create dimensions and timelines, right? I like to intersperse this with comedy and my own reflections and storytelling because I think it helps people be able to see, like, sometimes these high-level concepts that we talk about, like dimensions and timelines, and you're like, are we in a sci-fi novel? And the answer is yes. Yes, we are. And like science knows that there's multiple dimensions, the string theory, there's dimensions upon dimensions. My belief is that every choice creates a new dimension, and then there's like parallel versions of you that then go out to live that out. You can actually work with them. So I have a session called, I think it's Highest Timeline, where it's like, okay, you maybe, Dani, you want to start this podcast, you haven't started it yet, and you're not sure, and you come to me and we look at like 3 versions of what that looks like, and you're like, I want that timeline, and then we put you into that, and there's a various ways that you can do that. And that's how I started to work with Ian, because I was so shocked. And then I'm working with his future self, the one that was holding the baby that I'm still in shock about a year later. And he starts to prepare Ian, because Ian's more of a commitment phobe than I am, because I've had so many fucked up relationships. He's not had enough. So I'm working with future Ian. So I did tell present Ian about this. He's somewhat spiritual, definitely not this level. He's like fucking comedy. And through that, through working with alternative versions of him and me, we went from like this like situationship where we were both like really fucked up about it to then took time out, complete detachment, because that's the other thing. There are so many universal laws. You cannot be attached to what it is you want to manifest, because then you're telling the universe that you don't have it yet. And we don't all know, I shouldn't say this, but your brain doesn't know the difference between what is will be and what was, because time is a construct. It's a way that we understand our place in the universe and like the spatial awareness of things. And that's why it's like space time. And so by working with a future version of you, and you can do everything from going on walks with that version of you and getting like intuitive downloads. So you're just almost imagining that you are on a walk with a version of yourself that might look different. I didn't work with my future self for this relationship. I worked with his future self because I think he had more fucking issues than I did, which is saying something. And anyway, and now we're in this really happy relationship. It's got really serious. I'm still as terrified. I'll have you know, like, not any of my friends will tell you that I've been like, but that's how I manifested love in a way that was really unexpected. And who knows, maybe it's not it. Maybe it's it for now. Like we never know. But you can do the same with anything. You can create anything. And basically, like what we talk about when we say like working with a future version of you, all of this is in the astral realm, right? So that is the truth. Your imagination and what you see, and if you don't see what you feel or hear when you're, say, visualizing or creating, your imagination is the gateway to that realm. And when you understand that that is the truth of the matter, that is what's real, even though it doesn't feel real. And people say, what's the difference between my imagination and it being real? Well, your imagination is what's real. Like that is like, it's how you time travel to like the past and the future. It's how you like can go from dimension to dimension. It's how you astral travel. The brain is the gateway to everything. And once you understand that, like reality becomes a bit of a fun game because you're like, well, if this is all based, let's say, on my old thoughts, then if I can create that when with fucked up thoughts, what the hell can I create consciously? And that's when shit gets fun. So, you know, on a smaller level, you might be like, if I'm supposed to take this job, show me a blue butterfly. And you will see that blue butterfly. Or you might say, if I'm not supposed to take the job, show me a yellow butterfly. These are my two signs. And I think I did that with Ian, actually. I said, if I'm supposed to be in this relationship, show me a blue butterfly. I've only seen a blue butterfly once in my life before. And that's when I said, show me that I'm actually supposed to move back to the UK. I'd sold everything. It was already fucked. I was getting on a plane that day. And I saw a blue butterfly, right? That was the first time. And the second time was 6 months ago with him on a walk. So you don't always see these things as they are. Like I also could have seen an illustration of a blue butterfly or maybe a song called Blue Butterfly, or maybe someone would have said it to me or I would have gone to a club, right? The universe is fun. I talk about her as a she, but there's no gender, it's above that. She likes to have fun with you. So understand that she's mischievous. She'll play into you, but you can create anything you want. You can ask for signs and guidance. You've got guides and angels that want to tap in and help you. And if you don't have enough confidence to do that, there's courses where you can go and do it. There's teachers that'll help you, but just have fun with it. It's all real. And reality is a joke. And you can create anything the fuck you want. So that's my take.
Yes, Betty. Oh my God, so many good pieces of nuggets of information. And I love how you just say it because it's so simple. Like it's so eloquent and just like ABC, this is the reality. Because oftentimes when we are raised in the 3D, and not a lot of us see like the demons and like the things in the reality, it takes a level of trust. And sometimes that's like part of our purpose, right? Uncovering those things. But maybe we were scared of the dark. For me, it's like I had these like reoccurring dreams of these angels, but I didn't know who they were. And so it was for me, it was like in the subconscious. So when I was sleeping. And so it was like having to uncover those truths and understand how to trust my intuition. And it's really funny because I feel like love is one of those big things, love and money, right? What you're talking about with manifestation. And for me, love always came really easily. And it was always this like knowing, like when I searched for it, I'm like, I'm gonna go find a guy like in high school, you like walk down the mall and you're like looking like, oh, is he cute? Is he cute? And it's like, oh, I want to find like a boyfriend this month or whatever. And then it's like, it's not gonna come. And I just knew it because it was like you're right, you're attracting, you're attaching to that like desire so much. But I would when I would release it, when I would surrender, it was this like energy that I just, before I knew I was psychic, right? It was just energy that of openness. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to look and I'm just going to trust that he's going to come. And then within always like within a month, someone would come. And it's like following that intuitive hit. But the issue was it was keeping the men was always the issue for me. And so it was like I had several boyfriends who never told me they loved me. Like I would, after years, I would tell them and then they wouldn't, tell me back. And so after this last previous relationship of 4 years, I was living at the beach and it was at the pandemic, and I had a one-way flight to Spain. I was going to move to Spain and I was going to learn Spanish and learn wine. And the pandemic hit, my flight was canceled, everything was canceled. And so I was forced to stay in this house with my ex-boyfriend. And, of course, we broke up. And within a month, I met Daniel. And I remember so clearly, I was like, I'm going to be single for years. Like, I'm going to surrender. I don't think I'm going to meet anyone. Like, I just got out of a 4-year relationship. Like, I think it's time. And then right when I surrender, right, I release the attachment, I release all that. And I'm like, I'm going to go within and really uncover who I am. He appears. And so it's been really this beautiful journey of like finding love. And I was the one who told him I love him first, So it was this, overcoming this vulnerability, overcoming. And once I was able to find more love for myself, he reciprocated it back to me. And so I love manifestation and I love how when you're in the 3D, you see it from one perspective, but you talk about calling in the angels, calling in higher selves and working with them. And I think that's a really, really, really big tool and key to a lot of things in life because people think you have to do it alone or I have to do this by myself or I am alone. And that's where a lot of that shadow stews, right? If you're not identifying, if you're not going to get coaching or help or therapy, right? You're stewing in that aloneness and it can spiral. And so
Yes.
really bringing forward like, hey, I want to, connect with this spirit guide. I want to connect with this spirit guide or this higher self or God. And I know this was a voice memo I know we talked about last year about, we always would say like universe, right? And we were like not connecting to God energy itself, but God is the creator. And I think you sent me this reel and I was like, yes, like when we connect to God. And honestly, since then I've been connecting to God energy specifically, and it's so much more abundant. Like, do you feel that? It's like, powerful.
Yes. Oh my God. And you know what? That's the whole purpose of everything I do is literally connecting people back to themselves and God. But there's so many people that have like religious trauma around the G word. And one day I want to write a book called The G Spot.
I love
Um,
it.
it'll definitely be sex related as well. Cause like what changed it around for me, what absolutely blew my fucking mind about God was the book Conversations with God that a lot of people was recommended to me by my friend Samantha Tune. Oh my God, she's amazing. You'll have to have her on your podcast. She taught me a lot. She is incredible. She's one of my other best friends. Was one of my other healers. I don't know. And she told me about this book and I listened to it on audio and it's like a book from, have you heard of it?
I've never heard of it actually. I want to look it up
Oh,
now.
girl, it is the single most life-changing book of my life. There's four of them altogether. Three are on audio. I recommend audiobook because what's so cool is they have the voice of God as a man and a woman, and it's interchangeable even in sentences. And that's when I was like, bitch, God's non-binary, of course. Like, and Neil Donald Walsh, who is the author, I think he's like 82 now. I'm like trying to get that motherfucker on my podcast, but they're always like, Betty, he's a global speaker and he's 82. So, he's busy. And I'm like, he's not too busy for this. He's not. He won't be. I will manifest you. Anyways, so he, around my age, so I think maybe he was like 42, was like, I fucking hate my life. I feel like a failure. He doesn't speak like me at all. He's very eloquent. Doesn't swear. And he was just so miserable and he had kids and a marriage and he was and he had grown up religious, but he was like, I'm a good person. What am I doing wrong? And he started writing these journal entries to God, and then God started responding. And it was like he started writing from the point of view of God back to him. And this continued, gosh, for years, right? So maybe like 3 or 4 years. And he turned them into a series of books. And God was like, you are my messenger to the world. And these books blew up, like millions and millions of copies. I think he started in the 90s. So when you listen to it, like There's a bit of old-fashioned music and shit on there, like you just get past that. But his voice, like I fall asleep to that book now because I know it's God resonance, it's God consciousness that I'm listening to. And I'd read so many books on aliens and I'd read so many books on spirituality and manifestation. And this book had all of it word for word in like, you know, the channel books of the Pleiadians and Arcturians that are star beings from, you know, our galaxy that we can go into. And some people incarnate as those. I definitely fucking want to talk about aliens. Like God literally talks about them too, and he and calls them like, oh, what does he call them? Higher dimensional beings, because everyone thinks that aliens are from other planets and most of them are just from other dimensions, which is again a whole other situation. And they talk about everything from like manifesting money to love to relationships and the relationship with God. And I was like, I love this. I've listened to them 4 times over, 5 times over. And it really got me through the change of my own life. Like when I was at home in England, being like, what the fuck am I doing? I lived in paradise and I've moved back to this cold, grey country, albeit I can appreciate it's beautiful. My parents, I'm living with my parents, 38, like my parents are miserable. They are unhealthy and like loads of cancer shit going down. And I was like, bitch, I need like something to get me the fuck through this. So I'm listening to these books and I go out on a daily walk and it really confirmed to me everything I kind of already knew, but also my relationship with God. Because I used to talk to God and about God a lot when I was like 11 or 12, and I got made fun of by my family who were very agnostic. And I only knew God through this like Christian sense, this Christian paradigm, but it never landed with me. Parts of the Bible landed with me, but I cannot take a human's version of something that is so divine that I also know where like there's been wars where people have been killed because of religion. Like nothing against religion. Religion's often not the problem, it's people. It's the same like guns are not the problem, it's people. The internet is not the problem, it's people, right? And that's a lot of what these books address. It says you as a species are very infantile. And as a species, you're all killing each other. And you know, you've got these nuclear weapons and it's basically fucked. And you say you want these things. Well, this is so God doesn't judge. Like there's no good or bad. We have free will. But if you want these things, what this book addresses is a way to do that, from the schooling system to how sex is amazing and great, how everyone should be fucking loaded, and God wants us all to have money. And you know what I mean? We need money more in the hands of good people. And this just really encapsulated everything that I loved. And then I was like, I need to then create a company or like spread that out in a way that's modern and fun and funny and sassy, but talks about really big shit like trauma and, you know, suicidal thoughts, and but also the highest version of yourself and aliens and consciousness. And I had to create something that encapsulated all of that. And then that's when God told me the name was the CosmicCo. So it was very influenced by all of this. But what's been interesting is since I saw you, I haven't really told a lot of people this, but I was like, the CosmicCo is still, it's still too big and I need subsections of it. So it's like I'm creating the Walt Disney Company as a holding. So the CosmicCo is like this parent company, and then under it, I'm creating different brands. It's going to keep me busy for the next 50 years, right? But because the vision was so big, because it's God's work, and it comes through the lens of me, which is mischievous and funny and flirty and all of this shit, then it can only be done in the way that I do it. But that I'm doing God's work, and I create like relationships with people back to themselves, back to their own power, understanding they create the best life that they need to, working with the laws of the universe and connecting back to them, like to God ultimately. And that's either through manifestation or astrology or shadow work. Sometimes I'm clearing demons, and I get to use everything I do and all of these talents, including my writing and my branding and marketing work that I used to work in. And you know what I thought? I was like, I'll never actually leave the world of branding strategy because it's manifestation itself. And so I'm still doing projects and I really enjoy it because I'm helping founders manifest and create through branding strategy that is like their vision, their goals. It's all the same things as manifestation. So to get back to that, I don't believe you should choose. I believe you should do whatever the fuck you want as long as it's not harming other people and you get to do it all. And I think people that say you don't get to do it all just haven't really managed time management or quantum fuckery. And maybe I'll look back in 5 years and be like, bitch, you didn't know enough when you said that. But right now, you get to do it all.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it was an honor working for your company for a little bit, doing some women's circles on the beach last year when I lived there. And yeah, just the energy of your company is so beautiful and divine, and you can see it through all your posts. And I really want to read that book now. I was raised Catholic, and so coming back to God, to my own connection, has been definitely a journey. And so, kind of what the resonance of that energy of the book that I'm feeling is just, it almost feels even like the soul's language, like how we should be like connecting and knowing and moving through life. And I love that the way you move through your company, and it's really a goal of mine too, is to tap into the multi-dimensional self, because we cannot address just one part of us, right? You're addressing the mind, the body, the energy, the mul channels, the aliens, and all those beautiful things. And even myself, I think when we met, I was connecting for the first time, I think, with like my Syrian, star family, and they're the ones who I've been working with the last year, and they've been helping me co-create like these new energy technologies, and so now that I'm teaching Reiki, I am teaching Reiki from a fundamental way of Reiki, because even though it's not really regulated, I am very heart-centered with Reiki as a specific energy, right? But I feel like oftentimes it can be a portal to other things. And I had a student come in and she was like channeling, Pleiadian light language and Lemurian light language. And I think it's just so beautiful to stack those things and have all the tools and all the resources to help someone fully, because oftentimes we reincarnated here for a reason, and to help you helping people expand into who they're meant to be and bring forward is so valuable in the point of this life. And I think when you do connect to God consciousness, you're able to see the world from a higher perspective. When you're here in the nitty-gritty and you're just looking with what you can see with your physical eyes, you're only seeing like 2% of actuality of who we are. But when you open that third eye, and what you said about what you see in your reality, in your third eye, is your reality. You can create anything that you see. And a lot of people, I think that's where the misconception comes. Like what they see in their reality, they think it's their imagination, or they think it's fake. And they don't understand like it could actually be a different dimension of you, a different aspect of you. You can be creating different timelines and portals, but because of your belief that you think that it's not real, it will never be. And so it's really pushing the limits of what your beliefs are, and seeing what is possible. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm any belief like, oh, I only have to do one thing, or I'm only going to get these kind of clients, or I'm only going to make this amount of money. It's like I'm breaking all of those. And I feel like that's what's been helping me like quantum leap.
Yes, because you're not limited to anything. And again, it's just looking at life through a very human mindset, isn't it, when we think we're limited? But we are undoing so much programming of the patriarchy. And it takes a minute. It takes a fucking minute. And you have to overcome the idea that you're going to sound crazy. I mean, if people think I'm crazy, it's kind of good, because I'm like, oh, well, you get it then, because then you understand the opposite outside the paradigms. As long as you're not looking me up, girl. Try. I will teleport out, bitch. But I think that's it. And I think we forget that we're supposed to have fun. And people take spirituality as like a life sentence. It's like, and it's a definition of self. But spirituality is not a definition of self, it's a way of being. And you are this and this and this and this. And I think that's the other thing, that sometimes I get invited to some spiritual events and I'm like, God fucking no, because I can already sense the amount of limitation and judgment there from people that you just feel it. And I guess that is a form of judgment in its own right, but it's also discerning. It's like, are they meeting me where I'm at? And it's, again, not that I'm here and people are there, but sometimes, like when we talk about consciousness and levels, I think people just forgot that this was all supposed to be fun. And like we create all of these, like, this is my other bugbear, and I might get hate for this, is like there's so many freaking rituals. Like you don't need a ritual. You can tap in anytime you want. You can just, I'm tapped in now. Do you know what I'm seeing? Like I'm seeing a field full of unicorns and jellyfish. Like that is a reality. You can, and that's what I want to teach people, is like it doesn't have to be hard. I love spells. If you want to do spells with candles and things like that, freaking amazing, but you actually don't need them. And I think these are tools. They're not the only way of doing it. And I think sometimes people are in the comfort zone, or it's in, what culture has taught them. And I'm like, cool, that's great. But are you also willing? And this isn't saying that I am right, but are there other ways? Is there an easier way? Are we being conditioned to think that there is only one way of practicing? like it's not even practicing. You don't even have to practice. You can just do like the only you're not practicing to gain more confidence. You are trying to gather more intel and data to create trust. And ultimately, if you just like, I'm not going to trust this eventually. I'm sorry, I'm not going to trust this immediately, but can I believe that I could trust this eventually and just act as if it changes the game and it takes the ego out of the equation. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes like when I see these events that are like ecstatic dancing and tantra, and I'm like, those are all good. I love anything like that, but it's just sometimes it attracts a certain type of spiritual person, and there's a lot of spiritual fuckboys there and shit. And I'm like, but
I
have
know
you
exactly. I know exactly what you're saying. And I think it's different too when there's a leader who is psychic and are connected to God and heart-centered. There's a portal and you can feel it. You can feel the energy. Like when you and I met for the first time, we were literally like in a portal. I felt like we were seeing things and like literally like reading each other's minds. It was just this like such beauty. And
yes.
I've been recently to a retreat that the person wasn't psychic, and I felt called to go. And I think it's because I meant to see what I didn't want to
Mm.
do. And it's not that I'm like above anyone, right? I'm just on my own personal journey, right? It's a specific journey, and one that is not fearful of saying I'm psychic and I connect to God and I connect to aliens and I am an alien, you know? And I think when people are really in their authenticity and can just be a portal and a channel and holds that kind of space, there's like magic. And so, yes, I've been using this discernment and I feel like I needed to hear what you said. Like maybe I am judging too, you know? And it's like, but using discernment to like, I'm now very picky with the circles I attend because it needs to be really, really high vibrational.
Yes. And there's some that just aren't. And it's also like you're right, there is a portal and a frequency that emits through marketing and words. And you can just tell. And I literally turned down 95% of events. I'm going to my first one in a long time that's not mine this Saturday. And it's from a friend. And she's like my healer's teacher and also friend. She's now one of my good friends too. It's happening. And I know that that's going to be really powerful, and I know how like integral she is, and like, but even beyond that, I think I would have gone to her events, and she created this whole way of working called point of light therapy as well, which also is incredible for yeah, for trauma healing and things like that. And she's just very incredible. So it's being discerning, but sometimes if you don't know, you can do things like muscle testing or asking your intuition or your guides if you should go or not. If it feels a bit off, like you're saying, maybe it's trying to show you something that you don't want. And sometimes you need to know what you don't want and see it before you know what you do want, especially if you're still on the beginnings of the journey. And I think it's very important to just put yourself first and be selfish, and that's entirely okay. It's the whole point of life.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. Just life is meant to have fun, to be adventurous, to be joyful. And how can you step more into your own authenticity and joy without feeling judgment, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And especially like judgment of self as well. Like I was never afraid to look a certain way in front of people. I think it's because I've got double Aquarius as my rising and moon. And because I'm a Libra sun and I never identified with that. Although I think if you looked at me, you'd be like, she's giving Libra vibes. But I think when you meet me, it's Aquarius vibes, and Aquarians are the aliens. And every Aquarius I know is also Arcturian, which is another set of aliens. So every Aquarius in my life, predominantly that's rising or sun, is a bloody Arcturian like me. And I'm like, this is not a coincidence.
Absolutely not. So Betty, what are you working on right now that can really support my followers?
Oh, girl. I've decided, just to make my life even more complicated, that I am going to create another app. And it took me 3 years to create the last one. And I was like, why God does it have to be an app and not a website? Because apps are incredibly hard to create and they take years, and you often need funding. And I never wanted to deal with investors again because they are the muggles of the world. If there's any conscious investors, get in touch. So what I'm creating is, I understood on what I love about astrology and manifesting, right? Is that astrology is your consciousness that was created, and it's like basically a GPS to reaching your highest version of yourself through understanding that you're not just your big three. There's planetary placements, and they all have energetic blueprints in different areas of your life. And I got really into astrology through manifestation, and I started to understand the more you know, right? So I understood if I, with my money, like I had bad money mindset for a long time, I'm still getting around that. I can help everyone else manifest loads of money, bitch, but I'm still working on it for me, but I'm getting better. Anyway, so I understood that if I had certain placements, it really understood like how what is my money journey, where am I limited? So I knew that astrology was telling me like who I am and why, but then it wasn't telling me how I get the fuck around it, right? So I was like, I want to create a brand under the CosmicCo. And for a while I was trying to make the CosmicCo this, but it wasn't fitting, which is kind of where I've been at the last year going in. And I'll experiment and do everything and fail multiple times. So I was like, I'm going to create a brand that takes my media, branding, spirituality, and fashion background and really bring it into like a consumer first brand that talks to the people that aren't very spiritual but are very spiritual. So it's called My Season because we talk about in astrology like the astrological seasons, but there's also the internet chat of being like, oh, I'm in my era, my season. And season is spelled SZN. And I was like, yes, bitch, that is a fucking great name. So it's an app that allows you to understand how to create your best life, like how to dress for your astrology, how to make money based on your astrology, how to do the fuck anything, have better sex. And it's going to have like neurolinguistic programming, meditation, subliminals, coaching, but it's also going to be product based. So you can shop by your star sign for the things that are like maybe journals that suit who you are based on your big three, or like how you should dress. And like these are the products that you can literally buy based on our recommendations. And that is why you need to go after all of your passions, because like me, you can bring them together into one thing that helps people. So yeah, My Season is launching later this year. I need a developer first. Yeah, it's gonna be fucked. I don't know how I'm doing this. I have to bend time, bitch. And it's essentially going to be the first flagship brand under the CosmicCo. So it's like my vision coming to life. So yeah, having a lot of fun making that so far. So I think that would help your followers immensely.
That's so amazing. A lot of the ones out there right now, the astrology apps like Chani and Pattern, like I don't often resonate with a lot of the things they say. So it's like now I go to the record. So it'll be cool to see when you launch that. I'm so excited. And I know you also have coaching and readings and manifestation readings. So everyone will have to check you out. Where can people find you?
People can find me on thecosmicco.com. And yeah, you can get birth chart readings with me. That's like a 25-page report. I do cosmic coaching, which is manifestation and life coaching based on your birth chart. It is life-changing, I would say, because I've seen what it does for my clients' lives. And it's fucking fun and affordable for now, bitches. So if you want to get it while it's hot.
Amazing. And I will put everything in the show notes as well. Well, Betty, thank you so much for co-creating the space with you. Your energy is honestly just such a pleasure to be in. And I know all my listeners will just absolutely love this episode.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Love you all. Have a cosmic motherfucking day.
Bye.